This is Blade Method Mindset, episode 24, with Corey Allen and me, Chris Trainer. Hello, Corey.
Hello, Chris.
And we've got one of my good friends, Bryant Westbrook, on the show. The number 5 pick in the 1997 NFL Draft. Number 5, right?
That was number 5.
Yeah. And Brian and I used to train together years ago before Blade. And he's just one of the greatest dudes I know, and always a pleasure to be around, so I'm super excited to have him on the podcast. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you guys for having me on.
For sure. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah. So Brian and I used to train together. I trained him, and he was working out in Fireside, and was in my wedding, or not in my wedding, but came to my wedding, was just a real good friend. We played golf together, hung out with each other. I'd always go watch KU beat Texas basketball with him. And we lost touch because we didn't lose touch, but I started Blade and left, and Bryant wants the personal touch, personal training, so I think you tried out Blade for a minute.
I must say this, Chris had me in the best shape since I retired from football that I ever been in while I was playing football. So it was amazing working with him. Great job.
Well, and going back to that, and I have it kind of in my notes here, you actually had a profound impact on my young career when you said, we were training together and we'd been together for a while, and you said, Chris, you're the best trainer I ever had. And I was like, what?
Yes, indeed.
And it was, you've been through a top-notch college football program in the NFL and all that. So I really took that to heart, and it helped build my confidence up quite a bit back in the day. So I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate the attention to detail that you had when we first started working out and everything. And it reminded me of my mindset and how passionate I was about my craft. And it just made me feel real good that I seen you take that to a next level and have me go to a next level.
Awesome. Beautiful. That's a beautiful thing.
For sure.
So let's get to know you. Where are you from?
You know what? Originally, I was born in Charlotte, North Carolina, but I was raised in Oceanside, California. So I moved to California when I was 5 years old. So I really call that home. My stepfather was in the military, so that's what brought us to Oceanside. And yeah, man, I'm a California kid through and through.
So Oceanside that's LA.
No, San Diego area.
San Diego, okay.
Yeah, North County.
All right.
Yeah, they do a Ironman out there. My dad's been out in Oceanside. Or maybe not an Ironman, maybe a smaller triathlon, but we've gone there for a race before. It's nice out there. It's pretty.
Really nice.
Yeah.
And so that's where you grew up, went to high school?
I did. I went to a school called El Camino High School in Oceanside. Wonderful years, man. I mean, it molded me the man I am today. It was very diverse, which I like because that's what America is, And it taught me a lot of things for when I became a man. So Oceanside was a great place to grow up. Like I said, being that it was a military base, I interacted with all kind of people, so it really molded me to the man I am today. So
was El Camino basically just military kids from?
Most of us, yeah. Most of the kids that went to school there, families was in the military or some branch of the military, either Marines, Army, Navy. So yeah, it was really all over the world. Most people were transplants, so it was a wonderful experience.
Right on. And what sports did you play besides football?
What's funny is I was a little chubby kid, so I really didn't interact in sports until I was in junior high school. So I used to watch my friends play when I was younger because my mother was working a lot and doing all those type of things. But what I did was I was really into basketball. Never played football till the 9th grade, so it was always basketball from 7th to 9th grade. And then when I got to 9th grade, it was my first year playing football, and it was just life-changing experience.
Fell in love right away? So no football until high school?
Yep, 9th grade, El Camino High School. So basketball was my first love. And, I always wanted to go to the University of North Carolina because, I'm a big James Worthy fan and Lakers fan.
Yeah.
So, basketball was my first love. And I started playing football in the 9th grade and just, it switched.
It just changed up. Did you play basketball at all in high school after that? Or you played both?
Oh, yeah. All the way up till the senior year. And then, I was the same. I felt like I was the same height. I knew I was gonna be like 6'6". I was like, I'm 6 foot in high school. I'm gonna be 6'6" by the time I leave. So I thought I was gonna be the next James Worthy, or back then it was Stacey Augmon. But football changed it, man. Once my senior year, I was like, I'm still 6 foot. I might as well just stick to football. So.
I'm not growing anymore, so I might as well stick to it.
So when did college start coming? When did you start receiving letters? How did people know? I mean, were you the talk of the town in high school, or were you like a show off in high school? I mean, what's that like, when you're
what's funny,
15, 16 years old?
What's funny is being that I'm a coach now, I see it's a microwave generation. I started the freshman year, I was horrible. Sophomore year, I was horrible. My friends used to laugh. It's like, you can't even tackle. What are you doing out here? And then my junior year, something clicked, So that's why I always tell kids the maturation process, just let it naturally happen. And then by my junior year, something clicked. My mindset changed. That's why I believe the mind is so powerful. And I committed myself to being an aggressive football player. And then I received my first letter. I remember it was from Michigan, in my junior year in high school. And I used to walk around with the letter in my back pocket to show all the girls and and the players. But yeah, man, it was just a wonderful experience, man. And I always had aspirations of going to college. I wanted to be the first person in my family to go to college. But once I started getting the college letters for football, man, it just changed my life, and I just dedicated my life to that craft, and it was an awesome experience.
So, I mean, Michigan. And when you're 16, 17 years old, so I mean, Michigan in the 90s it's the place to be, the place to go. So, does it take away from school? Because we've got kids that are high level athletes. So I want to know the parents, if their kids are starting. Did you stop thinking about school, or did you think you had to work harder at school, or?
See, I thought too much is given, much is expected. Once I started getting the letters, I felt like I had to work harder because I wanted to validate what I received. And what's funny is because I didn't really watch football back then. It was all basketball. So I only wanted to go to Michigan because of the Fab Five. I was I didn't even know about the football. I didn't know they had Charles Woodson and Ty Law and all those great football players. So my mindset was like, man, I get to go watch Michigan basketball with the Fab Five. So yeah, it made me work harder because I was at a high school to where we had a rich tradition. A lot of guys went to college before me, and then it's kind of like they passed the torch to me once I became a junior, and it was like, listen, you gotta live for these guys because you gotta pass the torch on to somebody else. So my work ethic just went up tremendously once I started receiving letters because I knew I had the gift, to go on to the next level.
Right on. And then when's Texas come around?
So Texas is funny because I'm a senior in high school, and I had a Michigan. Well, my top three schools were Colorado, Michigan, and Texas. And I had a ticket on my TV for Michigan and Texas, and I turned around at 3-6 and I just grabbed one. And it was Texas. And what's funny is my best friend used to always talk about Texas in high school, like, it's the best football in the country. It's a different breed. Football is basically religion out there. And I'm like, whatever, they don't have a good basketball team. And then, so, once I grabbed a ticket, man, and I went on a trip to Austin, and the passion I seen with the players, I'll never forget this. I had a roommate named Chris Carter who also ended up playing in the NFL. And I was like, I'm the best in the country. And he's like, well, I'm the best in the country.
The wide receiver, Chris
No,
Carter.
actually it's a defensive back.
Okay.
And we're both just talking trash to each other on our official visit to Texas. And I was like, I'm the best in the country. He's like, no, I'm the best in the country. I was like, well, let's prove it. Let's come here together.
Yeah.
So what's crazy is we went there together along with a couple other defensive backs, and by our senior year, we were the number one secondary in the country. So it was pretty cool to see that happen.
It played off. That's great.
And did you? I can't remember, but did you win anything at Tech?
When I first got there, Texas is a very prestigious school. When I first got there, I didn't know too much about it. A funny story is, so I wore number 20 in high school. So I get there and I'm like, can I have number 20? They looked at me like I was crazy. They was like, you see that Heisman over there? That's called Earl Campbell. His number's retired. And I was like, oh, okay, my bad. So I didn't know anything about it. But once I got there, man, and I got entrenched in the tradition and the passion that it has, man, it was unbelievable. So my freshman year, we didn't do too well. We lost to Texas A&M in the last game of the season in order to get to a bowl game. My sophomore year, we go to the Sun Bowl. And then my junior year, we go to the Sugar Bowl, and my senior year, the Fiesta. So I like to say we laid the foundation for Vince Young and all those guys. So, we kind of laid that foundation to bring Texas back to, the forefront.
And what was, so going from, obviously, you're probably, number one athlete on your high school football team, living high, and then you go in freshman year, and now you're bottom dog again, kind of come in. What's that like going? Is that a big transition for you, or did you feel like you stepped right into that role and like you were going to show up and play no matter what? And
I've always had the utmost confidence, but let me tell you something, college football humbles you.
Yeah.
Because you're going in, like you said, I was the number one, I was number 2 corner in the nation coming out of high school. And when I go to Texas, I'm like, okay, it's going to be the same thing.
Yeah.
I was getting beat like a drum.
Really? Yeah.
I called home every day for 2 weeks, like crying, like, I want to go to San Diego State. I want to come back home.
Get me out of here.
And my mother, Lord bless her, I was like, no, stay with it. And, rightfully so, because it was the best 4 years of my life. But, what happens is you're the big dog where you grow up at and don't realize there's other big dogs around the country. So your work ethic is not only trying to be the best in where you're from, but you got to think about you compete with the people around the world, the country. And that's one thing that I didn't realize until I got there. I was like, well, this guy's from D.C. He's amazing. He's the best football player I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. And then this guy's from Texas. This guy's from New York. It was all over the place. And what you got to realize, you got to keep working and don't rest on your laurels once you get somewhere. And a lot of times, I'm around a lot of high school kids now, and I'm trying to convey that to them, like, you got to continue to work. Just because somebody tells you you're great doesn't mean you stop. You got to the mountaintop. You got to continue to grow and try to continue to get better and work on your craft. So it was humbling, man. Like I said, I cried for 2 weeks straight. Closed my door, didn't talk to nobody. Was like, I'm getting beat like a drum. Like, who is this kid? I don't even know. He wasn't even in the magazine. Just destroying me. But it humbled me, man, and it made me work even harder. And, by my sophomore year, I seen other freshmen crying like, oh, I'm ready to go home. But I told them to stick with it.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, that's, that kind of brings me to the next point of, so high school to college, like the athletic part, but what about school? I mean, going to a place like Texas in the mid-90s, is it all, do you have to go to class? I mean, what's that like for one of the best players in the country? Are you bogged down? Because I've got an athlete right now who's in college and he's having trouble juggling it all, doing his athletics, his school, and he wants to be a lawyer. So it's like, what's the priority? How'd you manage it?
The number one thing is time management, and I've seen guys flunk out when I was a freshman and sophomore because you don't know how to balance it. No one's there to tell you to do your homework or study, go get the syllabus and understand what's going on, get your books from the bookstore. So you have to learn how to manage that. And one thing that helped me out in college was I wanted to be great in everything I did. So whether it was football or school, I wanted to apply myself. I wanted to be on the dean's list in college, which I did a couple times at UT. But, you got to be able to manage your time because, like I said, you're becoming an adult. No one's going to tell you when to do it. No one's going to call your parents and say, oh, you got to do this homework or you got to study this or you got to go to class. I mean, I knew guys where we would go out on a Wednesday, had a class on Thursday, and they would never go. And then a year later, they're not at school. So you got to learn how to balance that and understand that what's most important, because sports is this much of your life, about an inch of your life, education for the rest of your life. Yeah. And if you learn how to balance that and understand that that's the most important thing and prioritize, school, football, but understand that they both can be important to you and you can put 110% in both of them. And I think that's the main thing is you got to learn how to balance that and manage your time while you're in school.
So I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions out there is that people think I'm the greatest athlete that there is. I'll just get by. Yeah. I won't have to do all the little things that are so important to get you through life, that someone's going to do it for me. I'll get through. And obviously that's not the case.
No, maybe in the 70s or something like that. But but one good thing about college, they set it up. It's easy for you. They got tutors for you. So if you really want to succeed, you're going to succeed. If you don't, you're not going to succeed. And because they really set it up for you. I mean, you have tutors, you have study hall, you have all these things that are not given to the common student.
Yeah, people are out there to help you. Yeah, they want you to do well.
They want you to succeed. I mean, like I said, it's a mindset. You got to condition your mind like, I want to be great in everything I do, whether it's school, sports, whatever, business, whatever you want to do. And if you do that, man, you can be a success in college, especially in school and sports.
Beautiful. So we got all the college. So now you were 4 years at UT. You graduate. Yeah. And then you're going to the NFL draft. Yeah. What are the rumblings? What's your coach telling you? What are you hearing? Are agents trying to come after you? What's that experience like leading up to the draft?
Well, what's funny is my junior year, one of my mentors, a guy named Winford Tubbs, he went out a couple years before I did to the NFL draft, played with the Saints and the 49ers. I had put my name in, to go to the draft, and they kind of rank you where you can go. And they had me ranked in the second round, and I was upset. I was like, well, I'm not. Forget that. I'm better than that.
After your junior
year. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna stay my senior year because I want to better that. I know I'm better than that. And never forget, me and him talked about it, and he was like, I was like, I'm going to stay another year just to better myself. And, my senior year, I had a good year. I was confident. I was in shape, best shape, second best shape of my life. Chris got me in the best shape of my life. But I was in great shape, and I was just confident, and went on had a pretty good senior year. Was lucky enough to get drafted in the first round by the Detroit Lions.
This is yours.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it was a wild experience. You have agents coming at you, you have handlers coming at you, runners. We used to call them runners. And
what's that?
A runner is someone who comes and basically is a buffer between you and the agent. And if you want,
they carry the envelope.
Hey man, the Texas, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. Yes, basically they carry the envelope and they they pick up the bills and everything like that. But they're the buffer between you and the agent, and you actually get to know them a little better sometimes because they're around the campus a little more. You'll start seeing it. Like I remember my friend sophomore year, I'm like, well, who's that guy over there around these, this grown man around these, these college players. And then as you get better, you're like, and now he's your friend.
Now you understand what it is. Yeah, he's hanging out with you now.
Yeah, so it was a pretty wild experience. I mean, something I enjoyed, but like I said, you got to stay humble. You got to stay hungry because they'll make you feel like you're the greatest in the world. And sometimes you get lax in your craft and not want to, work as hard. But, luckily I had some guys around me to keep me grounded, so it was pretty cool.
All right, so did you go to the draft?
I did.
So did you know you were going to be up there, top 10? Was that something people were telling you was going to happen, or?
Yes, it was. So, going up to the draft, I knew I had to have a great workout. And
so the draft camp is before. Yeah.
So the training is before.
Yeah.
So back then it wasn't like it is now, where there's places all over the country. We went to a place in New Orleans by a guy named Tom Shaw, who's world renowned. I mean, I think he just was with the Raiders last year, or New England maybe. But I mean, phenomenal trainer. And we worked on the 40. On the 40, doing all these things, and vertical. It was the first time I was introduced to the Vertimax, and I mean, it was just, I was like, man, I didn't know they worked this hard. But so then they're rumbling like, okay, this team needs a DB, or this team needs a D-line. So it's kind of like, you kind of know where you're going to go already because of the rumblings and everything like that. But so there was another defensive back by the name of Sean Springs who was also rated high with me, and it was between me and him who's going to go first. I'm a little bitter about that still because he went 3 and I went 5, so still a little upset about that. But you kind of know where you're going to go, and then by the time the draft is, they'll kind of say, hey, we want you 15 players to come because we already kind of know you might get picked in the first round. And that's kind of what happened. They invited myself. Actually, one of my former high school teammates was also invited to the draft, and he went 11 in the draft. So we was on the same team in high school, graduated the same year and everything. So it was a wonderful experience, man. The draft was something that I'll never forget. It's funny because I had it on VHS, and I have a 5-year-old son, and I was like, I want to show him. So I had to get it converted to a hard drive. And so a couple of nights ago, we watched it, and my wife was like, oh, God.
Here we go.
So we sit there and watch a 2-hour draft. Because back in the day, you had 15 minutes on the clock, and they went the whole 15 minutes. Now they'll go like 3 minutes. Oh, the pick is in. So it was a pretty cool experience. But I went to New York, met Paul Tagliabue, was in the back in the green room, and went into the stage, put the hat on. It was surreal, man. It was a wonderful experience, something that I'll always remember and never take for granted.
In Detroit. Yeah.
Detroit. What up, though? So if you're from Detroit, they always say that. But Detroit, I went number 5 to Detroit Lions, and that was another humbling experience.
Was Barry Sanders still with the team?
Oh yeah. The greatest. Yeah. The greatest. Funny story about when I got to Detroit. So it's a different process. You go to college. You go from junior high to high school. You're like, oh my goodness, look at these high school kids. And it's humbling. Mm-hmm. You go to high school to college. You're like, oh my goodness, I'm crying every 2 days a week. Every day. Calling mom. When I got to the NFL, I was like, once again, oh my goodness.
Where am I?
There was a guy by the name of Herman Moore. He was a receiver. And I'll never forget this. He was like, if you can cover me, I'll buy you a car. He's like, I'll buy you a Porsche. And I was like, what? Cover you? I can do that?
Yeah. Caught
every ball that day. And I was like, oh, okay, I see what I'm doing. And then he was an all-pro. You know, he's one of the best receivers that ever played the game. So, you know, it was pretty humbling. That was another humbling experience. And I realized that, man, where every level you go, you got to work harder. You know, you just can't rest on your laurels. You got to work harder and harder in order to get to the, you know, top level. So, you know, it was pretty interesting, though. I loved it.
And then I remember going back a little bit to the draft. I had this in my notes that you told me one time that they wrote down on your draft card, not a weight room guy.
Yes, that's so true.
So that was just like you didn't like to work out. You
know what? And I think that's where it goes back to, you know, your mind. I was always such a good athlete. I didn't, like in high school, I never lifted, so it wasn't conditioned in me.
Yeah.
And then, you know, for the combine, you had to do a 225 bench test. And I was always a physical guy, but I used to say I'm country strong. But I hated the weight room, and which is bad because I think if I would have stayed in the weight room, I would have prevented some injuries and everything. But so you had to do the 225 bench test while you're in for the combine, and I did it 6 times, and like that's so bad. I mean, the average corner that year maybe did like 15.
Yeah.
You know, the great ones was doing it like 20, and I'm like, God, you got to change it. You got to do better.
What was your 40?
40 was a 4.37. But see, that's what I always I was never a weight room guy, and it actually hurt me because the other guy that went ahead of me checked all the boxes.
Yeah.
He was a weight room guy. He was, you know, all the boxes, fast, just as fast.
Yeah.
So when you get to that level, you got to understand that there's going to be people that same athletic ability. What separates you guys?
Right.
And that separated us is because his mind in the weight room was way better than mine.
Yeah.
You know, so it was. Yeah,
the test of a bench press for a cornerback is about as relative to, you know, I mean, I don't have a good analogy, but it's not exactly a great test for how good a cornerback's going to be in the NFL, but it's one of the tests, so if that's what they're looking at.
But what it tests your drive. It tests your not how competitive you are, but your work ethic. You know, it tests those type of things because it's saying when he was in the weight room or if somebody who lifted over 10 times, they was really working. Yeah. When I was in there, maybe I was messing around. And, it was tough. You know, dang, that hurts me right there. Yeah, that's true. God, I was not a weight room guy.
And so, go for
Did that change, like when so you're in the NFL now, is the training different at this point? Like, is it more mandatory to be in the weight room training, or is it more on the field practicing that is kind of the written rule for everybody?
You know what? What I noticed in the NFL, if you want to be great, you go in the weight room.
Yeah.
You know, you do those little things, just like, you know, preparing yourself for college. Like, if I want to be doing good in school, I apply myself, know what's going on. So the same thing applies is that you've seen the guys who had longevity, they were in the weight room every morning. They were doing all the right things, you know. They was up early watching film. So, yeah, it's not as prevalent as it is in college where you got to be there mandatory every day.
Right.
They expect you to do it in the NFL. They expect you to, hey, your off season now, we ain't got a trainer for you. You better hire somebody and work out yourself. Yeah. When you come into camp, you better be in shape. And that's the main difference. In college, you know, they're going to have somebody there for you. Like, hey, at 6 a.m., you better be here at 7. You know, that's the biggest difference. Like one of my best seasons, I committed wholeheartedly the whole off season of training, and the proof was in the pudding. I mean, I had my best season of my career. So, you know, it's important. I think a lot of times kids rest on their athletic ability, and not realizing that it
takes more than that.
Oh, way more, way more.
So, kind of take us through where you got drafted by Detroit, how long you're with Detroit, and then kind of the story of the career, because what I really want and what this show's all about is overcoming, you know, what happened to you and tell that story, and then the comeback and everything that happened, because, you know, there's a lot of people out there that need to hear it. So
yeah, definitely. So I had a pretty good rookie year. Was rated a defensive rookie of the year in some publications, and you know, I thought I was doing good, but I needed to go to another level. And you know, my mindset wasn't there. You know, I was into partying and doing things, and I didn't realize that in order to stay, you got to stay healthy in this game. So then I started getting little injuries. There was a hamstring my second year that kept me out. Then I broke my second metatarsal that same year, and I thought I was going to the camp like in good shape, but you know, in order to be great, man, you got to set yourself apart from other people, and sometimes that means doing things that others won't do. And I wasn't willing to do that. I was, you know, still young-minded, still in the college mind frame, still didn't think my athletic ability was all that was going to get me there. And not realizing that, man, you got to go above and beyond to get to the zenith, you know. And so my second year I got injured a little bit. My third year came back, had a pretty good year, but still was nagging injuries. Then my fourth year is when I was like, you know what, I'm gonna dedicate myself to training. I mean, I went to California, was running in the sands, worked out at Venice. You know, I thought I was, you know, that bench went up to like 15, 25, and I was just committed, man. And I was having the best years of my life, career, and leading the NFL in interceptions and doing all these things. And then I tear my Achilles tendon.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, you know, you're doing everything right, and you still get hurt. And my mind started to waver. It started, and I've always been strong-minded, man. I've always like, you know, I can do this, I can do anything. And I contemplated retiring. I was like, you know what, you know, but I was like 27. I was like, man, you're young, you know. But I was like, you know, you're not gonna be able to come back from this because I'm not. One guy I think had an Achilles injury. And that was a quarterback, Dan Marino. And you know, he didn't have to run a lot, but I was somebody. I had to run with gazelles. Right. You know, now I'm running like a buffalo. So you know. But when I tore that Achilles, I was like, you know, my mind started wavering. I started thinking about different things, and it hindered me because I was like, I didn't train as hard as I should have right away. And then I got with some people and got with some mentors, and I was like, man, listen, this is only a short part of your life. You got a lot to go, so keep working out. So then I started training again. I came back.
So you tore it, surgery,
tore it.
How long you in a boot? I mean, what's the time frame there from injury to actually being able to get out and train again?
So I want to say I tore it in November, mid-November in 2000, and I came back the following November maybe. So I was about a year out. I was in the booth for about 7 months. You know, it was just, and, you know, I'm being a competitor and everything you do, man. It was just, my mind was messed up. And, you know, that's why I say the mind is so powerful, because if you start thinking negative things start happening, and, you know, you condition yourself to not be as great as you want to be. So, you know, it just messed me all up. But then, like I said, I rebound and I worked my butt off. And I'll never forget my coach. He was like, you know, you at 60% is better than a lot of guys at 100%. And that just made me excited. Yeah. But that game I was going against Randy Moss, and I was like, oh my goodness.
Wait, so are you with the Cowboys in this?
No, I'm still with Green Bay. Okay. I'm still with the Lions now.
Okay.
So I'm still with the Lions with my first Achilles, and I came back in 2001 and tried to play on it. I was like at 60%. You know, what I would actually do is fake it at practice and act like I was good to go. But I definitely wasn't. I mean, I would know the plays that are going on, so I would, you know, cheat the drill.
Play a little bit, yeah.
Then I get in the game and I'm going against Randy Moss and all these, and I'm getting murdered, or not murdered literally, but I'm getting, you know, torched. Yeah. Because they're at 100%. Yeah. And once again, it kind of messed my mind up. But then I recommitted myself again. I was like, you know what, I can overcome this. And at the end of the year, I got cut. Now, I've never been released in my life, so I've always been a starter, always been the top guy. And Detroit cut me, and I was just like, man, what am I going to do, you know? Mm-hmm. And I'm living in Houston at the time, and luckily the Cowboys gave me a call. And then once again, I cheated it. I cheated the system because I was like, I'm healthy, but I really wasn't. But for one workout, I showed them I could do something, but I knew I wasn't 100%. My mind wasn't right. So I ended up going to the Cowboys, playing one game, and getting cut after one game. I don't even know if that ever happened before. And I was just like, and I commend Mr. Jones because he was like, you know, Westbrook, I love you, but I can't use you. He said, but he said, I'm going to pay you. And I was like, okay, well, I'm all right with that. Yeah. But, you know, so I got cut by them after one game. And I know why they cut me, because we was playing the Texans, and it was the inaugural game. Texans just came to the NFL. Dallas is still the big name, and you lose to the Texans. Oh. And I had a pretty bad game. I had a PI call, and, you know, but it was horrible. But, you know, it humbled me, man. Again, it humbled me just like it did my first year in college, just like it did my first week in the NFL. Yeah. It humbled me to where I was like, man, you got to get right. You know, you got to get right again. So I went back to Houston, trained. Luckily, Green Bay called me again. Called me, and it was like, you know, we want to bring you on. And I loved it. I mean, it gave me a chance to heal. It gave me a chance to heal mentally and physically. And, man, it was a wonderful experience. I mean, the Packers organization was unbelievable. I came in, I started playing nickel. And I was like, you know, I had an interception against Tom Brady my first game back. Oh, yeah? I'm like, I'm back. I'm back. And going into the offseason.
Was that against Randy Moss?
No, that was against Tom Brady. My first Achilles I tore against Randy Moss.
Oh, okay.
And
But you picked him.
Oh yeah.
You picked Randy Moss. You showed me a YouTube video of the one time.
I got him. Let me tell you something. Randy Moss is the best receiver athlete I've ever been around.
I was gonna ask you who's the hardest receiver you ever had to cover. Randy Moss.
Ever.
Yeah.
The absolute best. I mean, I played against Marvin Harrison, Terrell Owens. They're all great and they're all right. But there was something about Randy Moss that was special, and you see why he's a Hall of Famer. All of them are Hall of Famers, but
Yeah.
But yeah, so I got to Green Bay, and I'm around some great people, great coaches, and I'm bouncing back. And then we go
Who's
to
the coach at Green Bay at that
it was
time?
Sherman, I believe. It was Mike Sherman, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, so he was a head guy. And then we go into the off season. Green Bay's actually, did I get hurt that year? No, I played that year. I played that year we lose to Atlanta in the playoffs. So the off season coming around, I'm about to start at safety for the Packers. We're in training camp, and I feel real tightness in my other Achilles. I mean, my soleus. And I'm like, man, something's going on. So I tell the trainer, I believe his name was Pepper, like, I have tightness. He's like, okay, just sit out of practice. This is in training camp. I'm about to start at safety for the Packers and do it. And then we're going preseason against the Falcons.
Uh-huh.
And then I'm running, Michael Vick's at quarterback. Algie Crumpler's a tight end. He runs a drag route, which is a crossing route. And I go to break, and I snap my other Achilles. And I'm like, oh, my God. And I knew right away then.
Right. What's the pain? I mean, is it?
I've never been shot, but I can only imagine.
That's what it feels like.
It felt something like that.
Was the first one during a game, too?
The first one was against Minnesota.
During the game, yeah.
Covering Randy Moss, trying to keep up with him. And the second one was against Atlanta in the playoffs. Yeah. And that's when your mind really starts racing because, it's almost impossible to come back from two Achilles. And, that's where I was like, you know what? You got to start doing something else.
Yeah.
Because you out here running with some thoroughbreds and you out here looking like a buffalo. And, so, that after actually changed my life. And it was almost for the better because, I had I always had issues with my weight, and I had started taking water pills and started messing with my weight. And my wife who's a physician, and she was like, "You might be lucky because it could have messed your kidneys up and do all these things." So, some things happen for a reason. And after that, after I tore the second Achilles, I just knew I was done.
That was the final.
No, it was a wrap.
So what was the process after that? Then you retired out of the league, or was that what part of the season was that in? Just the beginning, right? Training camp going in.
Yeah, that was actually in training camp. So it was in the preseason. I think it was like the third preseason game, and it was tough because for so many years all I knew was football, and I was like, man, what are you gonna do? That transition from, they say athletes die twice, regular death, and then once your career's over. Because you've been doing something your whole life.
I was gonna say you haven't done anything else your entire life,
nothing.
Right?
Everything's been so structured. Everything's been structured to where at 3 o'clock I know what I'm doing. At 1, and then once that leaves, you're like, oh my goodness, what's going on now? So that was a pretty crazy transition.
And what did you transition into from there? Like, did you decide you knew exactly what you wanted to do with your life, or you kind of had a couple years where you weren't quite sure?
You know what I did was funny is even though I wasn't a weight room guy, I actually opened up a couple gyms in Houston. And I had a trainer with that. I used to train with in the off season in Houston. And he was a pretty bright guy, so we decided to open up a gym called Texas Acceleration and Sports Training. I had that for a long time actually, and we opened up actually 2 or 3 of them, and it went well. But it wasn't my passion.
Right.
It wasn't my passion, and if something's not your passion, you're not gonna put 110% into it.
Definitely.
It's not gonna continue to grow.
Right.
And the best thing I did was start coaching football.
Yeah.
Because it got me back into the realm of what I knew. And and I feel like it was my obligation to coach and give kids the knowledge, the right and the wrong. Because I made a lot of mistakes. I did a lot of good, I did a lot of bad, and I try to tell them like, even with, this, I'm giving back to you because I know I've been there.
Right.
And if you want to get there, I can tell you what to do and what not to do. So it was I kind of think it was a blessing to tear that Achilles because it enabled me to guide kids in the right direction.
Right.
So
Definitely.
Well, I want so I just read this book, Tribe, and I've known this for a long time, but the camaraderie of the locker room and the boys and we see this a lot in CrossFit in our gyms in the community. The military has it. When you do something for so many years and it goes into building this family, and then that's gone.
Oh,
no
man.
matter what, whether it's with the Lions or whether it's with Texas, wherever it's at, it's there, and
Yeah.
you got that camaraderie and that tribe. When that's gone, that's hard. That's what people suffer from.
That's what you miss.
You know.
You miss that grind. You miss the fact that, listen, I know we've been through the same struggles on this workout right here, and we bonded. Like
Yeah.
you said, with anything, with CrossFit, with football, basketball, you've been through, and then going in the locker room and conversing with people, man, and just talking about all these crazy things, that's what you miss. You don't miss the coaches. You don't miss I don't even remember half the games, but I remember sitting in those locker rooms talking about the battles that we had and talking about, the grind that we went through and everything like that, the off season. That's what you miss. And what happens is once you leave, a lot of times those relationships are gone because those guys are still in it and you're out of it and you're like, man, what's going on? I wonder what the fellas are doing and everything like that. Like I said, you knew at 5 o'clock after practice or 6 o'clock, you were gonna go with a couple buddies and play video game. Like the bond is real, man. Like it is in college, like it is in high. I mean, it's amazing, and that's what you miss most about. That's what I miss most, and I'm sure a lot of people miss most about being in groups like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tony Romo said when he retired, it's not the 9 Pro Bowls, it's not the, it's none of that. It's the locker room, you know, and we see that in overcoming something hard. That's human nature. That people are ultimately happy when they have a group struggle and they have people that they're sharing that experience with, and then they overcome it.
No doubt about it.
So
think about what you guys, with the CrossFit. Everybody can't do that. So when people do it together, that bond, man, is crazy to break because you know that a lot of people around the world can't even do these things.
Right.
And that's what's awesome about it, man. That's why I love being around the locker room. That's why I love coach. I used to love coaching because it was that same feeling. It was the same seeing those kids go through that grind and the coaches do, go through the things. I mean, it was awesome, man.
So are you coaching right now?
Yeah, I'm volunteering, not as much as I used to. I'm more of just a mentor to the kids and everything like that. Yeah, I don't do it like I did when I first got out.
Did you coach high school or
high school
when you first got out?
Yeah, I like molding the kids, man. I feel like it was my duty, the obligation to give back to these kids and teach them what I knew. Well, like I said, what I know and what I knew. So that's what I want to do.
So Corey's from Phoenix.
Yeah,
so his next question is going to be, where'd you coach?
Did you coach out here?
Yeah, I coached at a school called Saguaro High School.
Okay.
Yeah, where'd you go to school?
I went to Peoria.
Okay.
So,
they were good back in the day.
Yeah, not so much anymore. But yeah, we had I played for Clap back in the day. So.
He's famous.
Oh yeah, Saguaro, they were good. They're still a good school. Yeah, they still play real well, huh?
Yeah, it's a really good school. They're working on 6 championships in a row.
Yeah.
So this will be their 7th if they win this year. Send a lot of guys to the NFL and college. Matter of fact, they have a guy on the Cardinals right now, Christian Kirk, who's a dynamic football player. I had the privilege of coaching him when I first moved out here coaching football. So we got a guy that's going in the draft this year, Byron Murphy from the University of Washington, who's a defensive back, and so I had the privilege of coaching him. So DJ Foster, coming from a little school like that, man, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, they're definitely. I mean, Peoria's an old school, so definitely some like Gulliford and those guys back in the day. Jeff Johnson, those were all my coaches.
I got a buddy I used to golf with, went to Peoria. He swore he was the best running back in the country. I was like, stop it.
Who is he?
Marvin Johnson.
Marvin Johnson?
If you listen to Marvin, stop it.
All right, so you briefly mentioned her, but we got to bring up your beautiful wife, Taka.
Yes.
Who is, you said she's a physician, but she's she's a partner at a hospital. I mean, she's a top dog. She's a really high, and so, you picked the right wife to go into retirement with.
Yes,
right?
Indeed.
Yes,
indeed.
And I used to train her as well. And you guys, it's so funny because it's similar to Claire and I. Like, you guys have super different personalities. She's kind of the hard nosed, like straight on. And you're kind of like me. So but how's she doing?
She's doing great. A wonderful family. We have a 5-year-old child together. My wife, like I said, she's my rock. And once I retired from the NFL, if you don't have nobody there to hold you up, and to help you grow. Man, it's hard, and she definitely was there for me to do that, and to this day we're still growing. It's awesome, man.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Beautiful. Right on. And your boy's good?
He's good. He's real good. I just got him into sports now. He played flag football.
Oh, yeah?
Right? He hasn't grabbed a flag yet in 2 years, but that's okay, though. It's okay, though.
5 years old, though, I mean.
I know.
Yeah, right.
I know. He'll get there, hopefully.
So
Very
is
cool.
that what do you want him to play football? I mean, obviously the CTE stuff coming out, and, what's your view on that?
You know what? I was reading some studies where you get more concussions riding a skateboard and playing soccer.
Yeah.
But what happens is, on TV, a lot of propaganda. NFL was the biggest thing, and a lot of lawsuits. For him, I would say this: he probably won't play tackle until high school. I don't think you need to play at 5 years old. I don't think you need to play tackle, but to each his own. I'm not discouraging other people from doing it. I just feel like I don't think you need to learn. Like I said, I didn't play football to the 9th grade, and I still made it to the top.
Yeah.
So I think to each his own. I think what I'm going to do is have him play multiple sports just to get his body conditioned to different things. I think soccer is something, hand-eye coordination at an early age, but I think football, I would keep him in flag maybe till like 9th grade.
Yeah.
Then put him in a little tackle, but
Yeah.
he's definitely gonna play some football down the road.
I completely agree, and I think there's a lot of predisposition to that, and so I don't want to get into that conversation, but yeah, I want, if I have a son, I want him to play football, so I think it's just such a great sport, wrestling and football, so yeah. All right, man. Well, I know you got to run and pick up your boy.
Yes, indeed.
So I really appreciate you coming on, Brian. I think it was great catching up with you, and your story is awesome. And anything else you want to get out there? Got anything else to say?
No, not really, man.
I do.
What?
I'm not going to talk about like when we used to go out and play golf and stuff like that, but I am going to say that when we encourage healthy habits on this show. So one of the biggest things is having a daily healthy habit that we try to get on, whether it's, one a month or whatever it is. One of mine is drinking water every morning, chugging 24 ounces of water first thing in the morning when I get out of bed.
I can do that.
One of Corey's that I'm trying to get him to do is read a chapter a day in a book. There's different things. So what kind of healthy habits do you got going on a daily basis?
Oh, you know what? Honestly, I can say this. I drink 2 gallons of water a day. 2 gallons of water a day.
Okay, so
That's good.
Yeah. You're what?
good.
You're 6'2", 300 pounds?
No, don't say it out loud. We don't know if it's 300.
What is it?
I'm not telling you.
Okay, well, whatever.
It's probably about-
but you're a big guy, right?
yeah.
So 2 gallons of water is like
not
we don't want littler people drinking. That's a lot of water. That's
gotcha.
almost too much.
Gotcha.
For someone who's 105 pounds.
About a gallon of water is good.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought that was a norm. Most people try to drink 2 gallons.
No. Yeah, if
For
I
you,
drink,
it's probably- I mean,
if I drank 2 gallons of water a day, it would be pretty bad.
Really?
Yeah, just electrolyte balance and stuff
Right.
like that. But 2 gallons of water for you is awesome.
Okay.
That's like us drinking a gallon.
Yeah.
So
Twice the size I
I'm trying to get back in shape. I got to get back in shape. I had lost some weight and then took a month off and again came right back on.
yeah.
Happens fast.
Well, I
man.
remember, just to bring that up one more time, I remember, because I was trying to think back of all the things that you told me, and one of the things you told me is when you said you were going to get to, when you were in college, you said, I'm going to get to the NFL, I'm going to make all the money, I'm going to retire, and I'm going to eat. And I'm just going to eat, because you always had to make weight, and do that.
Chris
so
is pretty good. He has a great memory.
yeah, that's the mindset, it's like, so you had that thought in your head, I'm going to retire, and this is what I'm going to do. And
Ain't the mind powerful?
Yeah.
Listen, I remember vividly me saying that. I remember when I told him too, like when I was in college, I really said that. I was like, when I'm done, I've worked out my whole life and I'm just going to relax. And I hate it though because I hate being chunky.
yeah.
Like when I hate it.
Yeah.
But I told myself that and I did it for so many years. But I'm going to get back on it though. I'm going to get back on it for sure.
Yeah, come check us out.
Yeah, I'm going to hold you to that.
There you
All right,
go.
my man. We'll let you go. I appreciate you listening. You guys can hear this on SoundCloud, iTunes, catch us on YouTube, and we'll see you next time. Thanks
See
a
you
lot.
later.
Thank you.